Hi, I'm Charbria Shine, and welcome back to Max Out Girl. Ladies, so today we have a very special guest for you. It is Women's History Month, so I want to celebrate women that are making an impact in the community. So we have the CEO and founder of Ladies of Virtue, Miss Jamila Trimuel. Hey girl, hey.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yes, how are you today?
I'm good.
Good. Now y'all know I love pink. Yeah, she's right. It is like 70 degrees in Chicago, so we're loving it, but y'all know I love pink, and look how fabulous she is. Oh my goodness, right. We both got on that pink and black. So let's just, for that person who doesn't know what it is, what is Ladies of Virtue exactly?
Yeah, so Ladies of Virtue is all about empowering our girls to become confident and purpose-driven leaders. We serve girls ages 9 to 18, and then we continue to mentor and support them up to 24 years old. And I would also say that one unique aspect of Ladies of Virtue is that we incorporate mental health in everything that we do. So our girls even have the opportunity to obtain one-on-one or small group therapy free of charge.
I love that. So, okay, that's amazing. And you're able to do this, I found out, full time, which is a blessing. But tell me your story. Tell me a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I grew up on the south side of Chicago. So my dad used to always say, you're an African girl, you could do anything you put your mind to. And honestly, I took my parents for granted. You know, my mom also pushed me to accomplish my goals and my dreams. But it wasn't until my junior year in high school when I saw how some of my other friends' lives were taking a downward turn. But I was like, wow, not everybody has parents in their lives that are pushing them towards their goals and their dreams. So I actually became a mentor when I was a sophomore in college. And I haven't looked back since. Because I truly learned during that time that positive role models can change the trajectory of your life. So that's why I became a mentor, and I still am. Even though, you know, I'm the founder and CEO of Ladies of Virtue, my favorite title is mentor.
Wow. So that's what I was going to say. What made you start this organization? It's a little bit like what you were just saying. Is there anything else that you could add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my career. So after college, as I mentioned, I became a mentor in college, and so I started my career in healthcare. So I worked at Northwestern Medicine for 8 years. And throughout that time, I mentored on the weekends and in the evenings. But it was one particular time where my mentee came to me and she was just like, you know what, I'm 16. I'm having a hard time looking for a job. I really need a job to buy, you know how they want to buy their clothes and all of that. And I was like, yeah, girl, I'll help you, send me your resume. So as I was looking on her resume, under work experience, there was a bullet point that said, looking for a job. And I'm like, why is this it's not appropriate on a resume, which we all know, but the fact that it left her home, so that lets me know that nobody reviewed it at home, and then it was submitted for a grade.
At school?
It was submitted for a grade at school in which she received a grade, but no other supports after that.
No help, no guidance.
No guidance, no help. And I was just like, wow, nobody set her aside to say, no, this is not the right thing to do. Let's update this to this way, and then let me help you, find the job that you're looking for. And so that was what I did. Updated her resume, helped her find an internship. But the piece that really what I left out of that situation was that it was no longer, healthcare was no longer for me. As much as I loved my job, as my mom would say, you had the good job with the benefits, the salary, all of that. But as much as I loved that, I also loved my coworkers. It was a family type of environment. I loved it was challenging me. I loved what I did, but I knew that it was time to take a shift. And so at that time, I found out about this program called the Broad Residency. And it was literally for people who were not in education at all, but you had a passion for education. So I was like, oh, well, this sounds like me, because they were targeting people who were consultants, who were engineers, IT specialists, things like that, but just really had a passion for young people. So I applied, but this program was also less than 2% chance of getting in. So it was very competitive. So they only accepted like 35 throughout the country. So I was like, if I get accepted into this program, then I know this is God that is shifting me into a new season. And so I did apply. And I got in. I got accepted, which was phenomenal.
That's awesome.
And there was some special components to this program. One, you got placed in a management career in education, so that was really cool. But then you also, over the course of 2 years, earned a master's in educational leadership.
Wow.
And then the third component, which was my favorite part, we traveled around the country for 2 years every quarter, going to major cities, learning about the inequalities of the school system. So throughout those 2 years, I just saw so much. And I realized then that, you know, at that point, I did think that it was unique to Chicago, that our Black and brown youth were in segregated communities. Really, the educational environment was not well suited for us. So I was like, was this unique to Chicago, or is this, you know, more spread across the country? And what I saw was that this definitely was spread across the country, where our Black people were not being educated like we should. And so that's when I realized I needed to take more ownership of what I wanted to do after the residency program. So another aspect of this was that you received a business coach as well. So this program was just
amazing.
Right, well-resourced program. And shout out to Eli Broad, who is no longer with us, but he's just poured his wealth into this program.
Wow.
And so the 2 years are coming to an end, and I shared with my business coach, like, you know what, I really, at this time I had started Ladies of Virtue, but it was more like a passion project. And just what I saw over the course of the 2 years, I knew I wanted to be outside of the educational school system, but I wanted to impact it in a powerful way. And Ladies of Virtue was that for me. So I talked to my husband. I was just like, you know what, I really feeling that God is shifting me to do Ladies of Virtue full time. We didn't have a full time budget, but you know, thank God I had the heart and the passion, and a supportive husband who, you know, agreed that I would step away from the 9-to-5 life and then do Ladies of Virtue full time. So that was back July 2016. And it's been a fun ride.
It's been a journey. Wow. But that's amazing, though. And I love, you know, how you're talking about your passion, because some ladies, you know, I talk a lot about business on here, or maxing out your potential, going after your goals and dreams. I talk about that a lot, actually. Some ladies might feel like, I have a passion for something, or I see a problem and I want to be the solution. But on the other end, it's like, I got the job, though. I got the money, I got the benefits. And we were kind of talking about that you know, before this interview. What kind of gave you that, like, what advice would you give, that edge or that, you know, conviction to say, were you fearful, like, to say, even though I have this great job, these great coworkers, this great paycheck that's dependable, you know, I'm going to step out on faith and I'm going to go after something that, hey, I don't really know how it's going to end up, but I have a passion and I want to be a solution.
Yeah, so I would honestly say I was not fearful.
Okay, that's great.
Couple reasons why. One, I felt like I knew that this was where God was taking me. And I actually have, if you go on my Instagram, since you said you just followed me, there's a video, the very first video that I pinned. That was when I left my 9-to-5 job.
Really? I got to check that out.
So check that out. Because I was like, I was just so happy.
Yes, and that's awesome.
To leave, you know. But I was not fearful. I was confident in what God had asked me to do. I had saved up 6 months of savings. That wasn't smart, but it wasn't enough.
But at least you were trying, though.
Right. At that time, I thought it was more than enough.
You're trying.
Then I had to spend it. And I'm like, oh, I should have saved up like a year. What was I thinking? But at that time, I thought 6 months was good. So I had saved up 6 months. And then, of course, I had my husband's backing. So I knew I wasn't like about to be homeless or anything like that. So, you know, I understand that my situation was unique in that way. However, I was making $95,000 at that time. And I had my own condo. So there were things that, and I had just sold, matter of fact, I was married, so I had just sold my condo. But at any given time, you know, I just knew at that time that this was a shift for me. And I was very confident in the fact that this was the path that I was supposed to be on. And I also, you know, with a master's in health administration, and now I just finished the program, so I have a master's in educational leadership.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So I knew that if it didn't work, which I knew it would, because I had confidence that it would.
In the
but
plan,
if it didn't, right, I knew I could go back and get a job because I was well educated.
Jobs
my
are
work
always
ethic,
there, right?
My work ethic is, you know, on point. So I honestly did feel as though this was the right path for me. I think where it became later where I was more so like, oh wow, is this gonna work? Because
Really?
there were times where we had like $900 left in our account for Ladies of Virtue, and I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So there were moments later, but in the moment where I had made that decision and that it was like my last day of work, and I was like speaking life to myself. I was confident. I was ready.
Yeah, you were all about it.
Right, I was ready and all of that. And then also a big challenge came like a year later. I ended up cashing in my pension because I realized the 6 months was not enough. So it was a lot that came later, and the sacrifices that came later.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I truly do feel I felt as though God was, putting me on that path, was with me every step of the way, and then everything was lining up to really launch Ladies of Virtue to the next level.
Yeah, so for those entrepreneurs or those who are in that journey, would you say that passion really fueled like during those times of sacrifice?
Yeah,
what kind of kept you in that time?
Really is for those especially those with the spiritual backing, is pray to make sure that this is the season that God is having you to shift. Because I always will remember, even when I started Ladies of Virtue, I was going to start Ladies of Virtue in 2009.
Okay.
And I went to my pastor and I talked to him about, and shout out to Pastor Hannah from New Life, but I went to Pastor Hannah and I was just sharing with him my desire to start Ladies of Virtue and all of that. And what he had shared with me was that he had a youth ministry at the time too. This was before he launched New Life, but he had a youth ministry and he actually sat on it for 4 years before launching, and it ended up becoming like this huge ministry in Chicago. And so after having that conversation, I sat back and I was just like, you know what? It's not time right now. And I ended up launching 2 years later.
Okay.
So I say that all to say, having that guidance and the spiritual mentors, God, I knew that God was actually shifting me at that time. That's why I don't just tell people, just do it. No, I do not tell people, because I'm like, what are you hearing from God?
Yeah.
What is,
so
see
important.
what I'm saying? Right. And
timing.
So the timing is important. Then how are you preparing yourself for that next step as well? So that would be my advice, is really tap into, for me, is God, what is he saying? And then how are you preparing for that next step as well? Because there are other ways to do it. You can also work part-time and while you're working your business. So, but for me, I knew that God was saying it's time for you to fully focus on Ladies of Virtue.
Launch
and there were a lot of sacrifices that went with it, but it was well worth it.
I love that. That was great, lady. So take heed to what she's saying. So let's get back to Ladies of Virtue. So what type of impact do you feel like the organization has made? So I know you were talking about the budget. So there's things that money is needed for to do. So what kind of activities or what kind of impact do you guys have?
Yeah, so we started with 6 girls, and now we serve over 600 girls annually. So in terms of the impact that we're having, we're definitely making a large impact in the city of Chicago. We also reach over 1,500 girls annually through our outreach initiatives. We have self-care experiences, we have pop-up events, we have back-to-school events and things of that sort across the city. But primarily, we really want our girls to know that they're seen, that they're heard, that they're loved. We want them to know that we're there for them every step of the way. Yeah. We work hard behind the scenes to ensure that they have the resources and opportunities that they need to succeed. Yeah. And so what that looks like is we have programming that's throughout the school year. So girls could come either on a weekly basis or every other week, depending on the program. And then throughout that time, they're learning about career readiness. They're learning about leadership development. They're learning about civic engagement. But most importantly, I always say, is the character development. What does it really mean to be a lady of virtue? And that means to respect yourself. That means we have a love law that starts off by saying, I am a lady of virtue, a young woman of worth and beauty. My beauty comes from my character. And so it goes on and on. So it really, we really try to instill in young women that it's your character is what truly matters above everything.
Yeah. So how did you come up with the name?
Yeah, so Ladies of Virtue. So virtue by definition, a lot of people do not know that it means moral excellence by definition. And so what we want to instill in our girls is that who are you when no one is looking, right? Who are you if you're at school or if you're at home or if you're in the community, are you that same person? That kind of thing. And so that's what Lady of Virtue is all about. It's just instilling that moral excellence in our girls.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I always talk about the Proverbs 31 woman. I wrote a song called that, so I just love anytime we're talking about virtue or virtuous. And yeah, so let's move on. What do you see for the future of Lady of Virtue? Because you're already making an impact. You're doing great things. You're doing this full time. You're impacting, you said, over 600 ladies in the community, which is amazing. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
What's next?
Yeah, so we have so many innovative programming that we do on an annual basis. So, for example, we just launched Fanny's Fight for Freedom, and that really is designed to teach girls, especially girls who are juniors and seniors, the importance of voting, the importance of being involved in their democracy, and they learn about Fannie Lou Hamer, who is an activist in her own right, you know, fighting for women's rights to vote and reproductive rights and so forth.
Yeah.
So we just came back from Washington, D.C., where we took 20 girls to talk to their legislators about the importance of mentoring. So we want to continue to do more programs like that, where we're instilling in the lives of our girls that they can fight for what they're passionate about and make a difference. So we have even serving more girls in the city of Chicago. As you mentioned, our goal was to serve 600 by 2026, but we're already doing that.
Yay!
So let's go for 1,000 girls.
Yes, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
You said 1,000?
Girls.
Okay.
Well, we're aiming for 1,000 girls annually. And then even looking abroad, you know, looking across the country.
Yeah, not just
in
Chicago.
Terms of, in the future. Right now, we do want to focus on Chicago because there's such a heavy need. But we'll continue to broaden our impact around the country. And then the last thing I will say is that we launched our professional development series last year, teaching educators about the how to develop authentic relationships with Black girls. So another area of our impact is, as we are our organization, is continuing to impact the lives of Black girls. We want, as they go into the school system, we want their teachers to also be fully equipped on how to create safe and healing spaces for Black girls, how to develop that relationship. Nice. So we're teaching educators about that as well.
Yeah, I love that. So, okay, so you're doing all this amazing stuff, which is amazing. It's so great. So how can somebody get in contact with you or find out more about the organization? Is it somewhere they can follow you, a website or Instagram?
Absolutely, yes. So we love if you, for our audience, your listening audience, could go to our Instagram at lovchicago.org. Oh, no, that's the Instagram. So Instagram is lovchicago.
Gotcha.
So follow us on Instagram, lovchicago. If you would like to mentor or even donate, please go to our website at lovchicago.org. Right now, we have a big push for monthly donors.
Okay.
There's if you join our Love Giving Circle, you can become a founding member, where your name will be on our digital wall that will go out on social media, newsletter, as well as our website. And that is if you give any amount. Right now we have even $5 to $300, but however you may see fit. And so we would love for those to tap in that way as well.
Yeah, so check her out, ladies. Check out the organization and just pray about donating or being a part of this amazing organization, because they're doing amazing things. And I met them at the Black Women's Expo last year, and I was just like, they're great. Like, I want to connect, and I'm so glad. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're busy, you have a lot to do, but I appreciate it. I really do. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. So guys, we are done today with this amazing woman here. Make sure you go, as always, to charbriashine.com and click productions for our productions and events that are coming up. We're right now in our mini stage play series. As you know, we have the Ladies Lounge stage play. It is coming up April 6th, May 25th, The Little Red Dress, and then November 9th in Chicago, Single Woman Chronicles. So as you know, you can always follow me at Charbria Shine. You can follow us at Max Out Girl. And today, we hope we said something and encouraged, inspired, and elevated your thinking. So always remember, max out, girl. I'm Charbria Shine. Talk to you next time. Bye, guys.